Welcome to the IISS on this very bright and very sunny day. Not a normal day in terms of London weather, that's for sure. But I'm delighted on behalf of the IISS to welcome our guest speaker this afternoon, Minister Marvi Memon. Minister Memon is the Minister of State in the Pakistan government and chairperson of the Benazir Income Support Program. As many of you know, the Benazir Income Support Program is Pakistan's largest social safety net and one of the largest in the world as well. It is supported by a number of international donors, including the Department of International Development of the UK. Among other things that the BISP has done is to survey and provide technology-enabled cash subsidies to nearly 5 million households in Pakistan, achieved school enrollment of over 1 million children in Pakistan, and fronted policies to empower women. Minister Memon is a member of Pakistan's ruling PMLN political party and a member of the National Assembly. In her earlier life, before she entered politics, she had a distinguished career as a business leader and is a law graduate from the LSE just across the road, the IR graduate from the LSE. Mr. Memon will speak for about 25 minutes on poverty management and its effect on regional stability, and then we'll open up for discussion on this and related issues. So over to you, Minister.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chaudhary. It's a great pleasure to be here at the IISS, and I think when I was a student right across, it was always one of our dreams to be here, and to be here as a speaker definitely was one of them at the time. So it has taken some time, but we're here finally. I'm very happy that the High Court is also here with us, and of course Philip is an extra bonus sitting here right here, and a lot of friends from Pakistan as well as from here. I'll get straight into the subject. So I have a little paper that I'm going to read out, and then hopefully we'll take it more informally after that. So poverty management and its effect on regional security. Poverty threatens national security and over time regional and eventually international peace and security. Several studies have used empirical data to demonstrate that poverty weakens nations, plunges them into conflicts or transnational strife, and attenuates a state's capacity to ensure its security. Countries plagued by poverty are unable to fight disease, protect environment, and respond to disasters effectively. We have seen time and again that poverty makes affected individuals and families vulnerable to crimes and terrorism. Terrorist masterminds and criminals lure young, poor people to recruit them for acts of terrorism and violent extremism, as well as for drugs, arms, and human trafficking. It is no coincidence, for example, that Al-Qaeda chose the most impoverished and conflict-ridden countries and spaces for recruitment and training. There is, however, an inadequate realization of how abject poverty escalates tension amongst nations and threatens regional and international peace and security. The UN Charter, therefore, might well have written in its preamble to save succeeding generations from the scourge of poverty along with the scourge of war. It is time that poverty is recognized as a major driver of conflict within and among nations. Poverty engenders fragility in states and makes their economies anemic. Poverty alleviation strategies should therefore not only aim at pulling poor people out of the vicious cycle of poverty and bringing them just above the poverty, but create conducive environment for the full growth of the individuals and communities. These strategies should be linked firmly to the overall economic development strategy because, as we know, security and development are closely linked. For poor people, security means access to means that would provide them food, safe drinking water, and jobs. Once these basic requirements are met, they would seek opportunities for development through education and attain some dignity. Study after study has substantiated that inequality and exclusion of which the poor are the worst victims aggravate insecurity. It is therefore imperative that a state with a higher incidence of chronic poverty makes direct affirmative interventions to eliminate poverty and diminish inequalities. As poverty starts decreasing, the confidence among the private sector from home and abroad picks up momentum and stimulates growth, and that is good for overall security. In fact, one of the ways to bring weak economies out of stagnation and decline is to invest in poverty alleviation so that consumer demand increases and markets become more responsive, dynamic, and productive. National leaders and economic planners, especially of the developing countries, grapple with these problems day in and day out. They also recognize the above realities whilst formulating policies. In Pakistan, the current leadership, Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif and Finance Minister Senator Ishaq Dar, have clearly taken the economy to a stage where 22 international agencies are endorsing our economic achievements, which in turn have created fiscal space for funding the Benazir Income Support Program, which is the largest social safety net, and giving it budgets it never had before. World economists like Jim O'Neill have said in their report that Pakistan has the potential to become the 18th largest economy by 2050. On the commitment by Pakistan's leadership to the social safety net, namely the organization I represent, the BISP, our budgets have increased from the previous government's $0.4 billion per year to the current $1 billion per year. This is the fiscal commitment of the current government. It is clear that this commitment is not just part of the Islamic responsibility of the state to look after the poor, but also an acceptance of how, when the poor are managed, they are not fodder for instability inside Pakistan and outside Pakistan. Ladies and gentlemen, it is such poverty management efforts within the region which need better regional linkages. Our neighbors are ours for life. We need to accept that despite our conflicts with them. We need to join hands to save our poor so that we can add value to the stability zone which needs to be created by them at the bottom of the security pyramid versus otherwise. Regional poverty management and alleviation programs should be the important CBMs for dispute resolution, as well as learning grounds for how we can treat our poor as a larger subset of the same instability fodder. Once this realization is created that our destinies are shared and that we can jointly work to implement workable, successful poverty management and alleviation strategies in the region, then only can we move on the larger regional development mega projects like the China-Pak Economic Corridor or TAPI with some trust and confidence. It is an acceptable fact that regional economic connectivity is the only way forward for the prosperity of our people and for eventual dispute resolution of some of our sticky historical territorial disputes. However, what is not an accepted reality is that before that we need to undertake knowledge sharing on what works and what doesn't in terms of poverty management and alleviation in a region which shares so much culture, history and ethos. We in Pakistan are conscious that the symbiotic nexus between poverty and insecurity will be attacked more effectively through the propagation of the rule of law and access to justice. These two tools empower all, but especially the poor, and within this segment, especially women. Poor women would be empowered if they have access to financial tools and if they acquire skills, and this is precisely what Pakistan's largest social safety net, the BISP, is trying to do. BISP is producing results inside Pakistan. I would like to briefly share what kind of a poverty management and reduction journey we are on inside Pakistan with BISP. We at BISP have the humbling responsibility of being custodians of the poorest, most vulnerable Pakistanis. Our real-life revolution is that 5.2 million of the poorest women of Pakistan, who have been identified through an internationally acclaimed poverty scorecard, are being given cash stipends worth $47 every 3 months through electronic debit cards. Our annual budget, like I said, of $1 million is 90% from Pakistan's own resources and the other 10% from donors, like DFID, ADB and World Bank. Our strength is our database of the poor, Pakistan's only national socio-economic registry. Being custodian essentially means protecting our vulnerable from hunger, giving them dignity, empowering them, ensuring that they have a new meaning to life. It is nothing short of a revolution which is going on in Pakistan because we're trying to lift the bottom of the pyramid out of the gloom and giving them the chance to live productive lives. As a first step, we're obligated to save them from hunger and death by ensuring they have enough to eat. Third-party evaluations of BISP show that maximum amount of the cash stipend received by our vulnerable goes into buying basic food for the entire family. The cash is thus a life-saving necessity without which millions of lives would be at stake. Being custodians of the poor also entails ensuring they live healthier lives. Whilst we are offering health insurance to the poor as a new initiative, we are very keen to introduce them to family planning, nutrition supplements and nutrition advocacy. There is perhaps no single cause in Pakistan's development journey which is more critical than saving our future generations from stunting and malnutrition, since this leads to a GDP loss of 3%. We also want our vulnerable to vaccinate their children so that we can safeguard their health. This immunization drive requires advocacy and conditional cash transfer incentives, which BISP is well placed to deliver in those geographical locations where the rates of immunization are low. Being custodians of the poor also entails giving them their basic constitutional right of education. For now, BISP has enrolled its 1 million children, of which 47% are girls. which is another huge enabler for future women empowerment. For a country where children enter the labor workforce, are thrown into early marriages, get encouraged into extremist activities, educating them is a sacred responsibility. For now, we have taken care of primary education 37% of our most vulnerable children in 21% of our districts. If we get more funding, we can complete this task for all the districts of Pakistan and then take this conditional cash transfer to phase 2 by ensuring the mothers receive incentive money for their children's secondary education also. Only then would we have completed the education circle. Educating the poorest children is an immediate guarantee of future generations not being stuck in a poverty trap. Since we consider ourselves custodians of the poor, our responsibilities also extend towards educating our 5.2 million women, most of whom are illiterate. Adult illiteracy programs are fairly cost-effective, and were BIS to get funding for this initiative, would be a revolution in terms of women empowerment. Imagine if the most vulnerable mothers were suddenly armed with education. It would transform the country's gender equality landscape for life. An educated mother would ensure an educated family. Whilst we as parliamentarians have legislated on increasing protection for women when faced with harassment, rape, acid violence, my own law on acid violence is a case in point, we have yet to educate our most vulnerable on their rights. BIS provides a unique platform through its BIS beneficiary committees of doing just this. When women in groups of 25 spread over 45,000 committees in the country will discuss how they will have legal protection over any form of discrimination or violence, the word empowerment of women will take a new meaning. Whilst BIS has a platform and an existing network, it awaits the funds to be able to develop this program. Once executed, there will be no looking back for the women of Pakistan. It will be gender equality journey which will be quoted as trend-setting for many other countries. One of the major USPs of BIS is the fact that it is the largest social safety net, thus being the largest financial inclusion program of the country. 5.2 million women have CNICs enabling them to vote. They also have debit cards and bank accounts making them financially empowered. For future economic equality, this means that BIS is the only organization well positioned into changing the financial landscape of Pakistan. In essence, bringing the most vulnerable women into the banking system means giving them choices for the first time in life. Let it be clear that this is a country where women from vulnerable backgrounds have never had any independent identity, let alone a right to own a financial instrument, which gives them that extra decision making in their families. With BIS, they now know what having cash in their own hands means. They now spend on their priorities without being bullied into giving away what is theirs. They now have a sense of what to save for and what to spend on. For the first time, they have seen what an ATM machine looks like. For the first time, they have left their villages and seen town centers where these financial instruments exist. For the first time, they have experienced mobile phone banking and biometric systems. All this means opening doors which never existed for them before. Other than the basic stipend, which means the world to them because it is their safety net in a patriarchal society, they also have access to easy loans. These loans have led them into the world of self-employment and employment giving. From dole takers, they have become employment givers. When they take loans, they are in essence opening the doors to graduating out of poverty in 1 week. This revolution is the ultimate fruit for which we strive 24/7. Over 50,000 of our vulnerable have received vocational training and more than 100,000 of them have received interest-free loans. These are the success stories because they are no longer in our custody. They have graduated. These need to be shared and used for inspiration as part of the BIS Sisters in Success plans. They are poverty graduates of our system. We want these numbers to reach 1 million by 2018 with adequate funding. Imagine if the poorest were to become self-sustained. Imagine when they would encourage others to exit poverty by being role models. Imagine when they no longer need the state but are useful contributors to the GDP growth rates. The force multiplier of 1 million graduates of poverty will be the turning point and the tipping point in Pakistan's growth journey. It would not have happened due to any major rocket science other than a belief in and an investment in human capital. It is my firm belief that BIS is Pakistan's only platform which, if fully utilized, can help identify the poorest, provide custodianship in every respect to them, and then make them graduate out of poverty. The sooner we move this cycle, the sooner Pakistan will move from developing to developed and reap the benefits of the demographic dividend versus the demographic disaster. And now, ladies and gentlemen, to conclude, I would like to emphasize the link between poverty management and regional security again. In 2016, whilst Pakistan is well on its way to economic development, undertaking regional economic mega projects and coordinating on regional security apparatus, A bit more emphasis is required on knowledge sharing on how our region undertakes poverty management inside its own borders so that our regional borders are more secure. And thus the international community is also more secure. Perhaps in the entire security debate to date, the missing focus has been exactly this. How each country manages its poor cannot be divorced from how regional neighbors manage their poor. It is the basis of how collectively we will address extremist threats. It is the root cause of the problem. It needs more collective attention. We at BISP in Pakistan offer our platform to share our poverty management learnings with the region. And we would like to take the lead in this regional and international journey to collectively secure our most vulnerable populations from becoming fodder for the instability pyramid. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister. I think you laid down very well the linkages between poverty and extremism and terrorism nationally and in a regional context. You've alluded to various developments that are taking place and that you are leading yourself as chairperson of BISP in Pakistan on these issues. I was particularly struck by the emphasis on women and getting the girl children into schools and the importance of empowerment in that respect. Let me begin the discussion session by starting off with two questions. One in terms of the national perspective and the other in the regional context. The first is the national perspective. I was wondering if you could say a bit more about the linkages that you see between poverty management and elevation and employment. You've talked about issues of trade and the fact that some cooperative agreements will only take place after there is effective poverty elevation. But do you see the clear link in the sense of ensuring that there is employment as well as employment generation nationally, that it will again be a key element of what you've called as one of the root causes of extremism being poverty? The second question is in a regional context. Could you say something of how you see the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation in trying to in terms of the agenda and implementation on a regional attempt at poverty management elevation? As you said, all South Asian countries are afflicted by poverty, some in lesser degree than others. But what role do you see SAARC having on these issues? And then we'll open it up to the others.
Okay, so the first question I think is very relevant. Of course, they have to get employment. The PMLN government's emphasis has been on self-employment and not on government-generated jobs. We don't wish to create a heavy government, an elephant government. So really, that's been the PMLN government's policy from ages, and I really go by that. So whatever employment is going to be coming out of this, it's more in the corporate sector or it's in the private sector, and there are vocational training programs which are linking our poor to those two sectors, clearly. So that's one side. But what we are really encouraging is not that. What we are encouraging is self-employment. So wherever there's been a big emphasis especially in the last 1 year, not just since I've taken over, but since the Prime Minister's Youth Program has also been launched, there's a big emphasis on the fact that these women need to be self-employed. There's a new product which we've launched, which I thought I would discuss in the question and answer session, so I'm happy that this issue has been raised. It's called BISP e-commerce. And BISP e-commerce is just taking off. And BISP e-commerce is that game changer, like we call CPEC our national game changer. BISP e-commerce is BISP's game changer. And what it will do is that products made in the villages, in the houses, in the huts of these poorest of the poor women, some of them which I wear on a daily basis in any case, so I parade with them, those will have market access through the online system. So when you go right now online, TCS Yevo, Ahan-BISP, you will see some of the products. Now the idea is that anyone sitting in the furthest of the villages should be able to take a picture of the product through our offices. We have 450 offices in the entire country. Go up to one of our offices, they take a picture, they upload it online, and someone sitting in the entire country, whether in the north, south, wherever of Pakistan, and someone sitting in London can order online from that system. And this courier company is going to pick it up, the product, deliver the product, and then transfer the money, not through cash, but through the bank account that woman has, the BISP bank account. So it's financially inclusive. Now that system is just taking off. Once that system takes off, that to me is the best form of self-employment as I can create. Because therefore I am now then giving that woman a chance. Let's assume she gets an order for 50 such shawls. She will definitely need to employ women in her village in order to make those 50 shawls. She only made one, but now she has to employ others. So she suddenly becomes an employment giver, and she's the one who's doing the employment giving. So I'm not depending on others. The second part of this very quickly is that, I've been trying to reach out to corporates that be kind enough to hire from our, and train. Now we've seen that. It's been a bit slow. So Philip and the other journalists who know me, I like fast results. That whole process has been very slow for BIS. It's not happening at the speed that we want it to happen. So that's one side of it. Coming to the second question, regional, SAARC. There's a lot of learnings, and that's the reason I said regional stability, and that's why I emphasize and I chose this subject. I was in Nepal recently, before London. We were going through climate smart villages. Now that is a very easy way, and I use the word easy, understanding exactly what it means. Fast, easy, cost efficient way of getting these poor people to exit poverty. Climate smart villages. It's not a lot of investment. This is just one example of regional cooperation. So there are millions. Now the way India, for example, the way India does self-help groups, we need to talk to each other more. It is difficult to talk due to the political considerations. So poverty management strategies, I do not think, have been discussed in the same way across the different SAARC countries. I don't think there's been such exchanges. And the reason is because the political considerations are so high. And what I'm saying today is that this is actually the best way to start off a process. This is the CBM that will get us to talking about Kashmir. We definitely need to talk about Kashmir. And we will talk about Kashmir. But this might just be that CBM where we can talk about how does India manage its poor? How does Pakistan manage its poor? What are the learnings? What are the success transfers? These regions are not very different in terms of general climatic conditions, general sort of cultural. SAARC is SAARC. I mean, there's a reason why SAARC has been created. Whether we're using each other's learnings, I don't think we are. And I think there's a big potential to use each other's learnings better, despite our territorial disputes and despite the kind of cold frost that exists due to that. We're not going to put that on the side. I'm very strong on that. And the journalists sitting here from Pakistan know that. We need to talk about those issues. We're not going to stop talking about those issues. But this might just be a CBM for that.
Thank you. The floor is open. If you could please identify yourself and then ask a question or make a comment. Let me first go to Victoria Schofield.
Thank you. Can you just getting back to the actual practicalities of the Benedict support program, how has it affected the male members of the family? Because obviously they have their women who are, as you said, the poorest of the poor. They're not highly literate. So how has it affected male members having their wives having some financial autonomy?
64% of them say they use it themselves, and this they said in a survey 2-3 years back. I suspect, Victoria, if we take that survey today, it will be much higher. I've had 1 year of me doing a lot of empowerment effort. I have not measured it as yet, but we are constantly doing spot checks and surveys. So I'm really excited to see that number going up. The effect it has on the male member is very simple. Money talks. They want the money coming in the house. So if it comes in through the woman, so be it. The money is coming in. So they will be extremely pleased to put their women forward, to get their ID cards made. It is not something which is difficult. What was difficult for us was getting the children, the girls enrolled in certain areas. Or what might be difficult is getting the women to go out and vote. This is not the same. This is money coming in. So the male members are extremely happy because the money is coming into the household. And if 64% have control, the others So you can imagine the other percentage of control that the man has. The numbers going down, the men have less and less control. The good news on this is, and I say it in a lighter way, so it must be taken in a lighter way, because I travel a lot and I ask this question. My women, and I say my women because I take ownership of all of them, have bank accounts. So I asked the man who's the husband, who's a rediwala who sells chana on a stall. I said, do you have a bank account? He says, no. So I always have a great grin on my face. So they are getting financially inclusive, but the men are not. But the men are going to use that financial inclusion of the woman, and they do use those bank accounts. Because what will happen is that I asked her, so now that you have access to loan, what are you going to take a loan on? I'm going to take a loan so that I can help my husband's business grow. That little business of his. Because it's a family. I mean, the husband and wife. So they are linked. So to answer your question in a short way, yes, the money is coming in. Yes, the financial inclusion is coming in. The men are actually happy because they're actually benefiting from it. There's more food on the table. There is actually food, some form of food on the table versus no form of food on the table. So we've started these street theatres, and Philip was the witness to the largest ever gathering of South Asian women jalsa. We should have called in Guinness Book of World Records because we would have won hands down. There were at least 23,000, if not 25,000, women in my constituency who came out for women empowerment for this program. And we showed them street theatre, and we tried to explain. And the street theatre concept is they're illiterate, and the concept was that the man was doing a lot of violence on the woman because he was not bringing in any food into the house. And he was expecting her to bring the food in from nowhere. And then suddenly she is taken to the nearest BISP office by a neighbor, and she starts getting the money, and the man is really happy that there's money coming in. So we explain a lot of things through non-traditional marketing techniques, less heavy on the exchequer. That's the PMLN way of doing it.
Yes, please, you could identify yourself.
Okay.
Nazish.
Just for everyone else.
Nazish Before working for JNU Islamabad's broadcast producer. First of all, I would like to say that you are the worst critic of human and commend the party on having taken up a project that was initiated by a previous government, the Input Support Program, and it's not a critical norm in our country. So first of all, it's a new stab at the other. My question particularly is regarding the area of third. Martin, you have extensively worked in third. Do you think that a program like BISP, which can help a household with 2,000, can actually solve the problem of malnutrition and the children dying of hunger? At the moment when Pakistan is embarking upon economic gateway like CPAC, we still have children dying of hunger. It's a huge tragedy. The summer months of intense heat are still just around the corner. June and July are there. Every single year we have hundreds of children dying. What do you think the government is currently doing? I know a lot of onus is on the provincial government as well, but the government has to step in time to prevent this tragedy this year at least.
First of all, the number, the stipend, which is 4,700 per quarter, is not going to resolve the third crisis or any crisis. It's not supposed to. It's an income support number. It's not an income number. It's not a minimum income wage. If it was an income wage you were giving, that would be 13 or 15,000 per month. It is not. So it's only support. It cannot solve those issues. Third issues are far deeper than what BIS can resolve. But I did go, and Nazish is right, I do go to third. And I try and tighten my organization over there. Because I think everyone has a role to play. If BIS was more efficient, perhaps in its distribution, or perhaps if what I've tried to do is I've tried to add manpower of BIS staff in Thar so that they can reach out more. That is just my little effort at my organization's level I can do. What the federal government is doing, federal government gave in, I think, through BIS database, before I was BIS chairperson, but I remember because I was part of that meeting with the Prime Minister, cash stipends to take care of things, I think 2 years back or something. It was a trip that we took 2-3 years back. But the issue of Thar's malnutrition is not going to be solved by throwing in just cash stipends every now and then. It's deeper. It requires malnutrition crisis management We call it an emergency that we would like to create on stunting. There was a whole paragraph on stunting for saving time. I skipped through it. I'm big on doing something on stunting. There are certain pockets of Pakistan which have more malnutrition. If we were to concentrate on nutrients and drinking water and on different kind of filtration plants that actually work versus don't work, there are many solutions to that. But I have done what I can in terms of my organization. At least I've tightened their belt up, and there needs to be more manpower by all organizations in Thar right now. The emergency aspect has to be created, a sense of crisis. So we've done what we could.
Let me turn to Philip Barton. The minister has referred to Philip several times. Philip is a senior official of the Foreign and Commonwealth Office and was till a few weeks ago the British High Commissioner to Pakistan.
And has a huge role in the Wasila-e-Taaleem program's success.
Well, that also I should have added. I didn't know that, but I do now, so thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nice to see you again, Robin. I have to say, in my time as High Commissioner, the Jalsa I attended in your constituency was pretty much the best thing I did, so thanks again for that. If I may just make, firstly, an observation and secondly ask you a question. You talked about your frustration that the corporate sector hadn't stepped in and provided employment. I just wondered whether there was more you could do in terms of giving them an incentive to do that, whether through the tax system, although obviously we also think that Pakistan should be collecting more tax, so that's a double-edged sword, but whether there are ways in which you can incentivise more the corporate sector to provide the sorts of employment to the most needy. My question is around corruption, which is a big topic here in the UK, and we through DFID give the Benefit Income Support Programme a certain amount of UK government funding. I wondered, Marty, if you could say a little bit about how you ensure that the money, not just from the international donors, but obviously from, which is the bulk of it, from the Pakistani exchequer, goes to the right people. And going back to the title of your talk and what you talked about in terms of knowledge sharing, whether you thought, what perhaps the programme has learned, for better or for worse, so not always success, but sometimes failure, whether that was an area which you could perhaps think of sharing with regional partners, because obviously I think corruption is a big issue in Pakistan's neighbours, not just in Pakistan.
Yeah. On corporates, I just wanted to say that we need to link it more, and we need to link it more to the corporate social responsibility that they do, and that our database is there. We've tried to offer it. We need to perhaps make better packages, have a better marketing strategy, something that government departments don't have. So I'm trying to create that corporatization, so I'll quickly skip. But on the transparency side, I'm glad that you've asked that question. First and foremost, when the first day that I stepped in, we started an audit of the entire database. From 5.2 million names that came up, there was 714 that were suspect. Now that suspect number is such a small percentage of the large number that it's not such a big issue, but it is an issue for me. So we are investigating, and we are taking legal action against those people. We've set up a Director General for Audit, which did not exist before. We're doing constant spot checks, which did not happen before, and we're trying to prosecute. And the biggest thing I think that we're trying to do is change the payment mechanism. The payment mechanism was ATM, so the women would collect, the man of the village would collect all the ATMs and would give it to one of the man of the village would collect the ATMs of the women and would go to the ATM center and take the money out himself and then come back to the village and dole it out. So if it was 4,700, maybe one woman would be told, no, but the government has sent only 2,000 this month. Oh no, maybe the government has sent only 3,000 this month. And he would pocket the rest. So in terms of communication strategy, we're going out and saying, do not hand your ATM cards out to anyone, go and use it yourself. Now the trouble with ATM cards is that it's an ATM machine. The literate of the literate get worried about how to use an ATM machine. So these are the illiterate of the illiterate. So we're saying, I concluded, therefore, that this is not the solution. By communicating, by educating, this ATM was not going to cut it, because they still had an option to hand the ATM over. So what we're setting up is a new payment mechanism which should kick in around about third quarter this year. That's what I'm hoping for. That's what the deadlines are. Is a payment mechanism which is CNIC based and biometric. They can't hand over their thumb to anyone. They have to go themselves. So I'm forcing them to go themselves. That way, there's no middleman. So the biggest issue is the middleman mafia, which the women allow. My issue is not so much the corruption that takes place within the system, that is there, that we're handling. Also, my issue is more the middleman mafia that has been created. There's an entire system which sits there and which tries to feed off these women. And they know when the payment cycle is coming up. So everyone knows that mid-March, the payment is going to be out. So suddenly the middleman mafia gets very active around that time. So the women give speed money. It's called handing over your ATM for speed money. And I've often talked to them. They said, why should we go to the centers when this boy is going? I said, but you're not getting your full amount. So that system is going to go out. They'll have to walk in and they'll have more access points. So there'll be more access points. There'll be less traveling time also. That's the main thing. So right now the access points are also limited. We're trying to increase the access points. We're trying to decrease the, the monopoly of just 6 banks. We're trying to open the system up. So hopefully a lot of people are not going to be, mafias are not the most popular person in the country in terms of people who are trying to be corrupt, and the middleman mafia doesn't like me too much.
Yes, there are 2 or 3 other questions. Yes, please, and then we'll do it.
Hi, I'm Umar from Kashmir, I'm a journalist. You said CPAC is the game changer. So how many people are going to be employed in CPAC in Pakistan? And there's a percentage of poverty that's going to be addressed through this project. The second question, is there a realization in Pakistan that we really need to talk about conflicts in Afghanistan and Kashmir? Because you related poverty with the security. So what's happening in Pakistan, and is there a realization that we need to address these issues before focusing entirely on poverty?
Pakistan has never gone back on its stand on Kashmir and never will, as far as this government is concerned. And that's something that the Prime Minister has said at the UN, and that's something that the Prime Minister keeps saying. So there's a realization that those tough, difficult, sticky territorial issues have to be dealt with. So there's no going back on it. What the CPEC employment numbers are, I'm not up to date with that. I'm hoping for some help from the High Commission. The Planning Commission Minister is the minister for that. The number, I normally don't give any numbers when the journalists here know if I don't have the exact numbers, I'm the last one who's going to give you estimates. They must be on the internet. We'll check, we'll get back. But the idea really is it's a game changer because it's a route that will take care of the entire country and will create employment pockets in those distant areas which have not had employment opportunities before, thanks to the route. So that takes care of pretty much a lot of my population. My population is going to be heavily affected by CPEC's fruits. They can't see it right now, but they will see it in a year's time. So when I was in Gwadar last month, or Pasni or Mara, those areas will be the beneficiaries. Right now, not clear, but when it starts coming in, that whole belt will be, and it's a countrywide situation. It will touch all provinces. It's not just province specific. You want to add?
Yeah, just very briefly. Thank you, Minister. I'd say work in progress. You see, along the 3 routes which we have, central, eastern and western, there would be economic zones created. Economic zones which would be a sort of a manufacturing and all sorts of production will be taking place. So that's where we will be sort of facilitating employment and giving a boost to the economy. So I think this is too early to say how much in terms of percentages, but definitely, as the Minister has said, it's going to be a game changer because it's only going to be not along those 3 routes that these zones are being created. Then we are spending $35 billion in energy. So once we have 100% energy restored, it's going to automatically give 2% boost to the GDP. So I think it would be premature to be talking about the percentages at that time, but definitely it's going to create lots and lots of employment, but I don't have figures either at this stage. Thank you.
There are several questions, so let me just...
Just one point to add to CPAC, the misconception, it's not a project, it's an initiative. So you can put numbers to the project, but it's an initiative and it's unfolding.
It's in the work in progress.
Let me take the last three questions, and then I want to turn to the High Commissioner. We're delighted that the High Commissioner of Pakistan is here also, just to say a few words towards the end. But let me take the three questions, and now there are four questions, so let me, and then we can, punch the questions up because of the shortage of time. Yes, please.
Hi, I'm Shalini. I'm a journalist from New Delhi. In India, one of the strongest arguments against cash transfer has been that while it ensures demand in the market, it can be more substitute for subsidized fuel, subsidized food, and generation of real jobs when it comes to poverty alleviation strategy. So, what is your counter view to this point?
Okay, let's take yes. So then there was.
I want to add
Yes.
something to Charlene's question.
Sure.
And also,
Right.
usually, these cash transfer schemes come with certain conditions, like maybe immunization or enrollment in school. So, how is the BISP doing on that front?
Okay, maybe if you take these two, and then we can go to the next part.
Okay, so first of all, this one is an unconditional cash transfer.
Yeah.
They are too poor for me to put conditions on this particular cash transfer. And research has proven that if you give them cash in their hand, the mother, because it's going to the woman is going to spend it on what they need immediately. Food, so that family can survive and that child does not die of hunger. So there is, the government can do as many subsidies directed at the poor, but this is the most direct form going in the hand. I would call this the most direct form going in the hand of the woman who immediately will take care of her child first. We want the children to be saved right now. It's a critical situation. You're looking at the poorest of the poorest. So my argument will always be, this is a moral responsibility that we have to take care of the poorest of the poor's needs so that they don't die of hunger. And it's unconditional. There are certain conditional cash transfers, but this one, the UCT program is unconditional. A lot of people have tried to link it to immunization, to etc., to family planning. My take on that is this one is non-negotiable. It's unconditional. We want to do something else for health. We will have to put in certain services which are conditional. So yes, I'm very keen on that. I mean, I've been talking to the World Bank and Philip knows that. I've been talking to DFID as well. Everyone's very keen on coming up with a three kind of a system where immunization, family planning, we're not allowed to use the word family planning, so for journalists, kindly substitute my word for family planning as mother and child health care. Thank you. I can never remember it. And also the third one, nutrient supplements. So we're trying to create a special program, and that as a conditional cash transfer. But that won't be a cash transfer, that will be a service transfer, if you like. So if they take these services from the provinces, they need to get something in return for them. Okay.
Yes, please.
And the Chinese question after this.
Yes, okay, if you want.
My name is Tariq Mahmood, and I am part of this South Asia Journalist Scholarship Program by the United Kingdom Foreign and Commonwealth Office. My question is about, as the BISP is about poverty reduction and poverty alleviation. Maybe you have the first-hand information from extreme south of the country, Qatar, to extreme north of the country, towards Hunza. Do you have any kind of programs which are linked with technical education, as we are talking when we talk about terrorism and poverty as direct link? And secondly, we are talking about that this is the CPAC program, this sea change program, and we are going to take off being underdeveloped country to a developed country, but it needs the huge base of technical education. Do you have some kind of program, poverty reduction program, linked with technical education?
Yeah, we don't have a mandate for vocational training. So when the last government tried to do vocational training, it did not work so well. That program wasn't designed so well, and it did not work so well. So this government's, our mandate is really through the National Socioeconomic Registry, the payment mechanisms, interest loans, and this technical aspect we are linking with the provinces. So we are linking with the provincial TEFTAs, because that's what their job is. That's what they do best. That's their expertise. It is not my expertise to create a TEFTA. I cannot, if I can just do what my basic mandate is and do it well, that's what my mandate is. My mandate is not to create a TEFTA from within this, but my mandate is certainly to link with a TEFTA. So we're trying to link with TEFTAs, and we're doing that not just with the provincial government TEFTAs, but we're also trying to do them with the Hunar types, the private technical training institutes. And I suspect when the CPEC starts unfolding, there'll be more of that happening, you know. And so I'm also looking at, for example, the employment that Qatar has offered, the 100,000 or whatever.
Yes.
Right? I'm actually trying to say that I have a lean on that. I mean, I'd like to do that, but for that I would have to create some kind of technical value within my customer base, which does not exist right now. So you're absolutely right. For me to be able to supply to Qatar and be part of that 100,000, I would definitely need some kind of assistance with my provincial debtors.
Let me take the last three questions together because of shortage of time. Yes, the gentleman there, and then.
Hi,
Yes.
My name is Kaumik Singh. I'm a graduate from King's College, London. My question is about the point that you made about the people who you contact between India and Pakistan. What are you learning from each other, especially opportunity people who want to involve themselves from the role and then get over that. My question is, what do you think are the main hindrances as far as these people contacts are concerned? You said obviously there's government narrative that exists that we are not talking to each other. There's this government line of thinking that follows and percolates down to people. Are we waiting for the government to start something and then start talking, or are there platforms that, especially in the internet-based environment that we live in today, where people can actually ignore the government and start talking to each other, especially when there's a need, as you said, to learn from each other and talk to each other. Is there too much fear of government hindrance, or there is government hindrance to it? So that's the question.
Thank you. Let me just take the other two also. Yes, the lady. Yes, please. Do you identify yourself?
Emily Gray from the Department of Justice. I was wondering if you could talk a bit more about your regional sharing initiative, where thoughts on that and how you might implement it. It really seems that it could be something benefits.
Okay.
Your last question.
I'm Rashid Safi, a journalist from Peshawar, Pakistan. So my question is very related to Sahib's question. How if you're talking about poverty in Pakistan, so the status of poverty in the FATA and tribal area is very high. So how you are dealing women support program in FATA, because you all know that in FATA we have very squeeze type of banking system and the access problem is very rare. So how are you dealing with that?
Okay, first very quickly the FATA question, because the other two are linked. I have personally visited Moman, Bajor, etc. and to try and see for myself so that I can make better policy when I come back with my teams in Islamabad. First of all, the poverty scorecarding had not been done for all the agencies because the areas were closed. There were no-goes in 2010. The good news is now with Zarbe Azab, there are no longer no-goes. So we will be able to enter and do poverty scorecard, and we will be able to do a poverty survey there. That's the first good news. So we will be able to do mapping there. Once the mapping is done, I have met those women. They have come out. They want to do self-employment. They will be part of this BIST e-commerce easily. It's totally doable. I've seen them. They're no different. They are the same blood as the rest of the country, and it's totally doable. The first point is bringing them in the net. So I'm extremely keen on bringing those areas in the net. Some areas of Balochistan had been left out. I was not very pleased with that. Now coming to this question, government hindrance. I am government, so I am not. I can only work through government because I'm not an NGO. I am part of the Ministry of Finance. I am government, and I will work through government to create those linkages. So my first opening over here is that I'm very eager to do that. Now I don't know what kind of hindrances will come my way. I don't want to get into that right now. But I'm just saying that this needs to be done at government level. I'm not expecting like track 2 to be able to do this for me. I'm expecting myself to be able to talk to someone across the border and say, you seem to have done this right. Now, I think what will help me, I know what will help me, is the RSPN's experience. Because those people have been doing a lot of cross communication. So when I say the word, there's a lot of RSPNs who have already worked together. Their shared experiences will help government to government. I would like to do this government to government. Why should I not do this government to government? I don't see any hindrances. I mean, we eventually get around. We will not stop talking about the K word. We will continue talking about Kashmir, but we want to also continue talking about poverty management. We will not compromise on the major territorial disputes ever, just so that we can do better poverty management, knowledge sharing.
And just for those of who know, the RSPN experience is.
The name is skipping. But the big man himself. Shoaib Sultan.
Okay.
Now, for example, Shoaib Sultan is a guru in this. He has worked across the border. He has experience, you know. So we will want to do this government to government. I mean, I don't want to just do this through the Shoaib Sultans on one side to the Shoaib Sultans on the other side. No. It will have to be government. Then and this SARC platform is a perfect platform for it. I mean, when we're sitting in Nepal with ICMOD so there might be a few UNESCO-based resolution organizations like ICMOD who might help us. I know ICMOD is helping me personally with my climate smart village plan, and but it has to be. All I'm saying today in London is that there should be a realization that it should be more institutionalized at government level. This poverty sharing across the border. That's all.
Thank you, Minister. You know, we have the High Commissioner of Pakistan, Syed Ibn Abbas, with us here, and I'd like to invite him just to say a few words. We've got an excellent group of people here, and perhaps if you could just say a few words on what we've been discussing, or on the broader link, the references to the UK, etc. How you see some of these?
Of course. Ram, thank you. I think Minister has covered it very extensively, and there's few things I learned myself from the Honourable Minister's talk here. But let me thank you for hosting the Minister here, and a Minister who is very hands-on Minister, because as it was said a while ago, that she has been, when needed, she was in Thar. Thar, as you know, one of the remotest areas, it's a desert. And when need arose, she was in upper in north of Pakistan, mingling with the people who have been temporarily displaced from Waziristan. So I think Minister has covered pretty much this program. As we learned all now, that it's basically to empower the 50% of the population. So that's a we have experienced it. And we are refining it every now and then. And it's ladies and gentlemen, I would say in Pakistan at the moment, there's a silent revolution taking place. Silent revolution, if we talk about, this experience, yes, because this was started by the previous government, but the good thing is that the current government, the incumbent government, has continued with it. Unlike in the past when we would scrap them straight away because it was started by a previous government.
And the name also.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So this is one thing. The other thing is that empowerment of women. Although we have the honor of being the first in many things, starting from the first Prime Minister, first leader of National Assembly Speaker. Similarly, we have many firsts in the context of empowering the women. Even currently, in the House of 342, we have 70 plus lady members of Parliament. So these are many things, but this is a reality. But the perception is just the opposite. So we have to correct that perception. But the good news is that as I said, the silent revolution is taking place in the country. We are seeing change in the cultural scene. Our softer image is coming back. Our films are doing well. TV is doing well. Our, you must have seen recently one of our lady film producer got, Ubair Chinoy got a second Oscar in a few years on a documentary. So I think there are many things happening. But at times we don't get to know. Similarly, if I tell you that currently we have, not to talk of the past, I have to talk of the present day, we have a speaker of provincial assembly in Balochistan. She's a woman. It must be, something very normal for most of the people here, but all those who know that rugged area of the province or its, makeup, they would not be surprised. They would be really surprised because now we have a women. So I think all said and done, again, recently we introduced a bill which is being hotly contested in Punjab, women protection bill, I may call it. So these are some things which were not a normal norm, say about a couple of years ago. There's a positive things are happening. So I would say that all in all, I also learned just now, and I wish the minister good luck for that. This e-BIS. Shalini was talking about the middlemen, or somebody was talking here about middlemen. So I think this is the best way to remove the middlemen from what the people are producing and to get it across in the markets. So this is a wonderful initiative, and I must say that we are grateful for the minister's vision. But again, I would be remiss if I do not mention the role DFID has or the government of UK has in helping us in these initiatives. And similarly, as recently the Foreign Secretary was in Pakistan, and our minister did acknowledge that we are grateful to the government of UK for their support in education and health. So these are very important sectors which are linked to the taking the people out of this poverty, shackles of poverty. So I would say that this program, as we just learned that this is going to be empowering. We have more than 5 million now, and in the next 3 years we'll have about 10 million.
No, the idea is to bring the number down.
Down.
Yeah, the idea is really because when we go in for a new survey, we don't know what the numbers will be. It's like the census happened in 1998, so we don't know what the current population is. So we're hoping that this number the graph right now is going like this, but eventually the UCT element, the unconditional cash transfer, my vision is the number should eventually be coming down. We don't know what the next poverty scorecard number might be. It might be 5, it might be 7, but eventually we need to be decreasing this number and going on to more conditional cash transfer. That's my personal vision.
Just to conclude, thank you, Minister, for this clarification. Just to conclude, I think the gentleman over there mentioned about the relations between our two countries, India and Pakistan. I think a while ago, a minister mentioned that she would be interested to have a dialogue with the people across the border. So I think this could be an excellent starting point, a CVM, as the minister termed it, where the two government departments, ministries, or whatever, they can start talking, because we have already 8 clusters under which we are talking to each other. This could be another addition to that.
Absolutely.
This is, I think, very relevant, because this is a challenge for Pakistan, for India, I would say all the entire region, because 1/5 of the total world population lives in our region, and I think, unfortunately, poverty is a challenge. So with this, I would thank you for this opportunity. Not that I was meant to be speaking.
No, I invited you to speak.
Thank you very much, and
thank you, Minister.
Thank you, Minister, for.
I just want to end by actually, it's very timely, because as we sit here, there is a SAARC meeting taking place in Kathmandu today, tomorrow, and the after, where the foreign ministries and then the foreign ministers will meet the after tomorrow to look at the SAARC agenda, and the next SAARC summit we hope take place in Islamabad at the end of this year, where I've always said I think this is a unique opportunity for something on the bilateral front, at least on these issues. But unfortunately, we've run out of time. We have to end this discussion. But I would sincerely like to say that this has been a fantastic discussion. The minister has raised the bar for our discussions at the Institute. I was struck not only by her articulation of some of these issues, but also the passion with which you've been talking about these issues and which you've been leading on this, and best of luck for the future on this. I'd also like to say that I was also very struck by the depth of the discussion which came from the participants. I think we've got a great group of participants today who know the subject intimately, and that for the IISS is very important. We know, I think what we do know is what we don't know, and I think it's very important to have people who do know for discussions like this. So I'd like to thank the participants, but most importantly, I'd like to thank the Minister for taking time off today to come to the IISS, and I hope this will not be your last talk at the Institute, the first definitely, but I hope there will be many more, and we at the Institute look forward to being in touch with you, and we as a team traveling to Islamabad.
We'd love to host you.
Thank you very much. I ask you all to join.